My mother worshipped ill-forgotten gods. Before I begin, I need to tell you a little about my mother and the deities she worships. They're ancient gods from ages beyond the first dawn when there was nothing but the void. But I don't want to delve there. My story begins when my mother conceived me. You see, my birth wasn't the usual way. My mother was infertile, and she desperately tried to have a child. She tried any means of mystic to shamans, but to no effect until she met what then seemed to be my father. He showed her a ritual that could bring life and make anyone fertile, but at a cost. You see, the cost was a life of poor firstborn and a piece of your soul. Having given up hope, my mother didn't hear the words of my soon-to-be father, and in the unholy union, they conceived a child, a baby girl they called Elspeth. My mother tried to raise me as any child. She braided ribbons into my hair and taught me old songs sung in the language of her people, the one she said even the gods forgot. She kept the house warm, the curtains drawn and salt at every threshold. She laughed with me when she could. But sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch her staring at me as though she didn't recognize the child in front of her. Like I was something else. She kept a journal. I wasn't supposed to read it, but I did, years later, hidden in the attic, wrapped in red silk. Pages and pages of confessions, how she felt hollow after the ritual, how her dreams bled into waking life, how she thought something followed her home. She wrote of waking in the night to find me standing at the foot of her bed, eyes wide open, whispering in a voice that wasn't mine. She wrote of dead birds found on the windowsill, of the dog that barked at nothing until its heart gave out. But she loved me, I know she did, even if I was a constant reminder of what she gave up, of what she bargained away. I was 5 when I first heard its voice, not in dreams, not in whispers, but clearly as though it sat beside me. It said my name. Just that. Elspeth. A low, knowing sound, gentle, almost kind. But it chilled me to the bone. All right, come on, Mara, that's enough that story for you, my mother said as she reached over and snapped the book shut from my hands. You got a busy day, Missy, she said, smirking. A flicker came from her eyes as the candlelight flickered, sending shadows across the room. Mother, you know I don't want to, I huffed with disgruntled as turned over facing my face away from her. I heard her sighing as she closed the door with a quiet click. Mother, you know I don't want to, I huffed, pulling the blanket up and turning away from her, facing the wall. I heard her sigh long and low, then the soft click of the door closing behind her. I waited 1 minute, 2. The floor creaked faintly beyond the door, then silence. I sat up. The book still lay at the foot of my bed, its crimson cover peeking from beneath the folds of the blanket. I glanced at the door. She never let me finish it, never let me ask questions. Tonight, something was different. I slipped from the bed, careful to avoid the groaning floorboard near the dresser. My feet were bare, cold. The candle still burned on the windowsill, the flame wavering as though nervous. I crept to the hallway, holding my breath, and moved toward the end, toward her room. The door was ajar. I paused just outside, heart beating loud in my ears, and leaned in. She was kneeling. At first, I thought she was praying. Her back was to me, long hair loose down her spine, trembling shoulders lit by the glow of a dozen candles flickering across the room. But then I heard her voice. Not praying. Chanting. A language I didn't recognize, harsh, wet syllables that clung to the walls like cobwebs. The sound of them made my skin crawl. It was like something old and angry had been waiting to be spoken again. Her hands were raised, fingers twitching in sharp, unnatural gestures. At her feet lay a small bowl filled with something dark and steaming. Symbols had been scrawled around it in chalk, or something thicker, something red. Mama, I whispered, voice catching in my throat. She didn't stop, she didn't turn. The chant grew louder, urgent. The candles flared, their flames stretching tall and thin like they were reaching for something unseen. Something was there. I couldn't see it, not exactly, but I felt it. Heavy and wrong, like a second presence in the room that hadn't come through the door. My mother gasped, her body jerking forward, hands gripping the edge of the bowl. Her voice faltered. Then the room went still. So still I thought the world had stopped. And then slowly she turned her head. Her eyes were black. Not dark. Black. Go back to bed, Myra, she said, voice calm, too calm, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just seen what I saw. But now, and I ran.